So she's been very attached to these girls, and in fact, on the day we were leaving, we stopped by one last time because our flight was out of Bangalore, and there's a lady that's 27. She has the only boy in this safe house. She had been trafficked to Hyderabad, which is one of the two worst places in India to be trafficked to, from what I understand. And I said, "Good to see you, ma'am." She's 27. She's an adult, you know. She says, "I'm not ma'am, I'm your daughter." And so anyway, she'd built such a bond with my wife that she saw my wife like a mom to her and wanted to be considered as our daughter. So just the other day, we were waking, I don't know, it was the middle of the night sometime, and it was Jyoti on the phone calling to say hello. So she's trying to make it independent now at 27 and see if she can make a life for herself. But it's such a blessing to be involved with these individuals. When we traveled to India that first time with my wife, I had already been there. I had met the boy that we sponsor. His name is Jayashanth. And our partner there in India said to me, "Your son is excited to see you." I'm like, "My son? My sons are back in America." Jayashanth has come to see us as his parents in a way. His dad has passed away, so he's a single orphan. His mom's a farmer, does her best to love her son as she can, wants the best for him. And so this boy sees us in a way as second parents, maybe. But we were able to visit his mountaintop village. We filmed it. I don't have the video produced yet for it. So this was the second time we met him. I've spent time with him 3 different times. On this last visit in September, one of his friends said, as I was greeting them as we arrived on campus at Sunrise Home, is this orphanage that we fully support there in India. His buddy said to me, "Jayashanth talks about you guys all the time. Every day he talks about you guys." I'm like, my goodness, this is a big deal to these kids. And I didn't really realize how much it means to them. And so I quickly said, "I have his photo in my office." I had to say something to show that we also have him on our hearts as well. So I just have a brief video for you to meet Jayashanth. Forward to coming back to the Sunrise Children's Home. Why? Because our family sponsors a young man from here by the name of Jayashanth. I was so excited for my wife to meet him for the first time and to be able to see him again after my first visit. One of the highlights was to see the room that he calls home. And in that room, in his cupboard there, were 2 Bibles. My wife asked him which book of the Bible was his favorite, and he said the book of Hebrews. You don't hear that very often. It's a very deep theological book. And then she asked him if he could show her where the book of Hebrews was at, and he turned there immediately. So this is a very spiritual young man, an intelligent young man who now has a bright future with plans, with a career in mind, with goals, because he's been given an opportunity here at the Sunrise Home. Jayashanth, like many of the children here, is an orphan. In this case, it was his father who passed away, and his mother was unable to provide the financial means necessary to support him. She's a farmer, and she does her best to provide for little things for him, like shoes, like a blanket. But she is so happy that he has this opportunity for an education through sponsorship here at the Sunrise Home. One of the honors that I have is the ability to visit the children that our family sponsors. And in this case, I actually had the opportunity with my wife to visit the village where Jayashanth grew up, where he came from, and to see how life is like for him. To be able to see that firsthand and recognize what a privilege he's been given to be able to be here at Sunrise Home, to pursue his studies, to have a safe place to stay, nutritious food to eat, to have all of his needs taken care of, and to know that his mom loves him and he can visit her on his breaks, and that she sends him gifts to help bring joy in his journey. As a sponsor back in North America in a first world context, it's hard to realize the significant difference that sponsorship makes in the life of a child who has been engulfed by poverty. They really have their script written for them from the time of their birth, based on the class that they're born into, based on who their parents are,
and many of them experience tragedy very early in life. When you can begin to experience that firsthand, it has lit such a fire in me because I see the difference this makes in the life of these children.
All right, so that is one of our kids. Here we go. So I talked about adoption in the message this morning, so I like to provide some resources that way if you know anybody who's considered adoption, if that's something that you have an interest in. The ccifamily.org, this is where we adopted through and did our international adoption of our 2 boys and our 2 girls also through there, and we are just on the tail end about ready to go get our girls. Everything we've done that we can do, we have done. I've become a paperwork guru. That is the biggest and hardest part of adoption, is the paperwork. There are organizations that provide grants to be able to adopt, and that's been a huge blessing to us. How many of you have heard of Stephen Curtis Chapman? He's the most awarded Christian singer in history, and he's been doing Christian music for a couple decades now. I met him at the very beginning of his career. I sponsored a Stephen Curtis Chapman concert and got to take him out to dinner and so on. It was very nice. Little did I know many years later that his wife's organization has provided significant funding for both of our adoptions. So it's been a huge blessing. So there's plenty of resources available to help financially with adoptions. Of course, you have to have a home study and all those things, and training, and there's all sorts of things that go into adopting, and international adoptions have their own unique set of things you have to go through. But this other site is for orphan hosting. This is the idea that you can bring an orphan to your home to spend the summer with you or Christmas with you. The beautiful thing about that, and I think about a church family like this, if there were 1 or 2 families that did something like this, you become an advocate for that child to help them find a forever home. And so right now, all of the children that are in the P143.org program are from the country of Colombia at this point, and all of them are adoptable. So anyway, just want to share those resources before we move on to details about human trafficking. So any questions on this whole adoption idea before we move to the next segment, because we're going to just charge right into human trafficking information now. All right, everybody good with that? Okay. Here we go. What state in the United States has the highest incidence of human trafficking? Okay, now I just taught the junior high class at my church, and I had 4 sets of seats, and I had them all shift to their answer. So this would be like A, B, C, D. Are you ready to do that this afternoon? That's a little bit too much movement after lunch, huh? So we just want you to commit to vote, though, okay? All right, so vote for one of these. How many say it's Florida? How many say California? Okay, how many say Texas? Anybody for New York? I think some people voted twice, but anyway, that's all right. Here we go. What major city in the United States has the highest incidence of human trafficking? So here are your options: Chicago, Las Vegas, Houston, or Atlanta. So let's go ahead and vote on this one. How many say it is Chicago? How many say Las Vegas? Anybody for Houston? Okay, and then Atlanta. All right. So here we go. All right, so I want to ask you a question. Don't worry, we'll come back to the answers. Who is the most vulnerable to human trafficking? When you think about the North American or United States context, who would be most at risk? What group of individuals will be most at risk for human trafficking? Okay, I heard young females. When you think different subsets of society? Okay, males, you're saying? The poor? Actually, I had a church that rattled almost every answer off correctly. That was like they took my whole screen. Somebody shared it ahead of time. What groups can you think of? The which one? Orphans, children without parents, okay. Immigrants, okay, we're starting to get some different kinds of groups here now. You're getting the idea of what I'm looking for. Yes? Yeah, for America. Okay, Native Americans? Absolutely. Single parents. We're starting to break this down a little bit better now. Okay, you're going to be surprised. The top answer that I give here, nobody ever gives. And then when you see it, it's like, wow, this is obvious. Okay, you ready for it? Social media. Social media. People who spend a lot of time on social media. Now, so that's one right there. But have any of you heard of Romeo pimps? So Romeo is the romantic side. A pimp is somebody who's selling somebody, right, for nefarious purposes. So this is somebody who pretends to be a boyfriend, but then turns into a trafficker. And so this is one way that trafficking happens here in the United States. Sextortion. This is something I think we need to be aware of, especially if we have teenage kids or grandkids. Sextortion is where maybe a boy and girl are dating, and they send each other explicit photos, okay? And that could be sending by text, by some other method. And then what happens when that friendship breaks off? Or when one person in that relationship wants something more from the other person? They use sextortion. They say, look, I'm going to share this photo with so-and-so, or I'm going to put this photo out on social media. And we know that kids have committed suicide over these kind of things happening. So this is a major problem even on our Adventist campuses. Okay? We need to be aware of this. We cannot have our head on the sand on these things. Our kids are involved in this stuff, and we need to be careful about it. And we need to let our kids know, our grandkids know, do not ever send a picture of yourself that you wouldn't want shown far and wide. I just heard a case this last week of a couple of kids that got themselves in some serious trouble, and the boy happened to have just turned 18. So he could be a sex offender for the rest of his life for a flash of a couple seconds that wasn't even recorded, but he admitted it and it was reported that this had happened to the parents. If they want to report him to authorities, he will have a record for the rest of his life because the girls were underage. So this is serious, serious stuff, and it's scary to raise kids in this world right now. So we need to really, really be careful with this kind of thing. Exploitation of visa applicants and visa holders. Hey, I can help you get your visa if you do these things, right? Disappearance at the border. We all know about that. This has been a huge challenge. Where do these kids go? Where are they at now? And again, some of them have ended up in trafficking circumstances. Runaways. Within 48 hours of a young person running away, they will be approached by a trafficker. So that's just a known statistic. Drug addiction, we can see that one clearly in vulnerable and underserved communities. That's where we come back to Native Americans and groups like this, inner city situations. So these are some of the vulnerabilities in North America. 1 in 5 runaways and unhoused youth are victims of human trafficking. So they're all going to be approached within 48 hours. 1 in 5 ends up going into trafficking. So a pretty scary thing that way. This next one I want to share with you, and I just share it very straightforward. I will do my best to be PG-13 this afternoon in what I share, but I do want to raise our awareness in this area. First one here is this. There are tremendous numbers of kids. A multitude of kids are being sold as sex slaves today in America. These are American kids, American-born, 50 to 60% of them coming from the foster care industry. It's broken. All around the world, there's a challenge with the question, what do we do with orphan kids? What is the best situation for them? And America has landed on foster care rather than institutionalization. I personally am favorable toward a group home scenario with a smaller group that have professional social workers that are looking after the kids. The foster care system in the U.S. is so broken. It is devastating to kids who have gone through this program. And this is where trafficking victims are pulled out of, because you think some of those kids are the runaways that you're talking about that end up in a bad situation. And because there's a monetary incentive for the foster care program, some people are doing it for the wrong reasons. Which says to me, as long as this is the system we have, if we want to make a difference in the fight against human trafficking, maybe we need some really good foster care homes, Adventist foster care homes that are doing it for the right reasons to protect these kids. It is very broken. Some countries, many countries, are moving away from large institutionalized orphanages because it doesn't matter how good that orphanage is. The training we received when we were adopting our boys from an orphanage is every child that has been in an institutional setting is traumatized. They deal with trauma. Our girls are being adopted from a smaller group home. And we were able to spend some time with the girls and a few of the boys that are part of this group home. And I saw a very different kind of emotional health from these kids who have a couple of professional social workers that are looking after them. But anyway, this is the challenge we face here in the U.S. on this issue. But I want to touch this one, and this is absolutely shocking. In 2016, Barna did a research on pornography among Christians, and the study was updated this year. This is what he found. 75% of Christian men, are 3 out of 4 men ready to stand up here this afternoon? That's the number. 75% of Christian men and 40% of Christian women reported consuming porn on some level. Here's the tragedy. Only 62% of them think there's anything wrong with it. That's what the study showed. What a messed up world we're in, friends. Now, here's where we need to get to the reality here. You can help end sex trafficking by simply refusing to participate in the production, distribution, or consumption of pornography. Sex trafficking is a 99... Hang on. Let me make sure I get the number right. It's a $99 billion business. All trafficking is $150 billion. So $99 billion of that is sex trafficking. Where do the funds come from? Mostly from the United States. Mostly from the United States, and it's largely through pornography. So here's the definition of sex trafficking, one of the definitions. Anybody under the age of 18 that is involved in commercial sex work is considered to be trafficked. So let me show you where it comes from. I'm gonna break this down, hone in on it just a little bit more. There's a website called OnlyFans. Anybody familiar with OnlyFans? Okay. Now you are. We're raising awareness. We're shining a light. We're putting a magnifying glass up to what's going on. OnlyFans is a site where any individual can become their own porn star. And the goal, of course, for these individuals that go on there to become a porn star is to get people to pay to see their content. There is very intentional recruiting that happens to get individuals to sign up to be a porn star on OnlyFans. That is the only thing that OnlyFans does. This is it. And so, in any case, a study was done out of England, because this is a global site. Anything on the World Wide Web, right? Anybody can access from around the world, which means you have people from all over the world on this site. More underage young people are using this platform to sell sexually explicit content themselves for money, and it's estimated that about a third of the individuals on OnlyFans are underage, which means if that content is being consumed, the individuals consuming that are contributing to human trafficking. So this is how America becomes very responsible in terms of fueling this global challenge. So not all trafficking is sex trafficking. A huge amount of trafficking is labor trafficking. There's also child marriage is considered to be a form of human trafficking because the girl is being sold for a dowry against her will typically, but many times they don't realize they have a choice. So anyway, these are some of the challenges here. So let's come back to the state in the United States that has the highest incident. You put your vote there. The answer is California. So 5 of the top 20 cities in the United States are in California. Their highest ranked city comes in at number 10. So all 5 of them fall between 10 and 20. But that combination puts it there. And you see Florida's at number 3. So now let's come to the question, and I should have switched it on the first slide because I want to put Miami up as an option, and I just saw that I didn't put that on the original slide, so I'll need to change that out. Here we go. Miami does make it very high on the list, but the correct answer is Houston. So Houston, we have a problem. There are three reasons why Houston ranks number 1. Let's see if you can guess what they are. Proximity to the border, yes. Yes, so that's one of the 3, absolutely, the border. What else? A lot of people, but you're on the right track with that. Immigrants. Houston is the most diverse city in the United States. Okay, I think Toronto, if you look at North America, would rank right up there with it. But Houston has the most diversity, which means people from different cultures blend in very easily. The third reason are the interstates that run between Houston, San Antonio, Austin, Dallas, Fort Worth. Very easy to travel between these major cities. So I'm a Texan by birth, lived and worked there for 13 years. But I want to share with you something that really is shocking right here. Right above the highlighted yellow, I'd like for you to read with me what's bolded there. There are more brothels in Houston than Starbucks. Do you remember the statement? Look at the citing on this too. This is from Children's Assessment Center. This is not Tom Evans making stuff up. More brothels than Starbucks. Do you remember how I started the message this morning? Out of sight, out of mind. We see the Starbucks, we don't see the brothels. That's how big of a challenge it is in Houston, and they cite the reasons why it's so bad in Houston. Well, what about Tallahassee? I decided to do a little research about your city and see what I could find out. Look at this. Notice the date on it. Do you see the date there? January 11, 2024. This is when it was published. This is one of your newspapers here, right? Or magazines? Okay. What do they say here? Human Trafficking Task Force arrests over a dozen individuals during undercover operation. That's right here in your own backyard. So just wanted to make that real for you right here in terms of the challenge. So, that leads me to this question. What % of human trafficking victims are located in the United States? Okay, so we're gonna take a vote on this one too. You have an option of, how many say it's 2%? A at 2%. How many say B, 5%? C at 10%? Or D at 17.5%? Okay, we got a few on C and most on D. I gave the answer in my sermon this morning, but you would have had to do a little math to figure it out. I didn't give the %, I gave a raw number. I said there are 50 million trafficking victims in the world, 20 million in the country of India. How many did I say were in America? Right around 1 million. Which, if 1 million out of 50 million, what's that percentage? The correct answer is 2%. 2%. Now, I wanted to paint a picture of how bad it is here, but I also needed to share this with you. Because as bad as it is here, it's worse elsewhere. And there are more resources going in to fight human trafficking here than there. This is why Child Impact has focused our training in America. This is why we go to churches, we always do this training in the afternoon. So we're involved here in the fight against human trafficking, but it's more on an educational level. There are many organizations in America fighting human trafficking, but 98% of the trafficking is happening in other places. And the conditions that lead to human trafficking are very different. So let's see if you caught this answer. What country has the most human trafficking victims? I already gave the answer to that one, right? But we'll come back to it. But this one I did not share with you. What country has the highest percentage of human trafficking victims when compared to the population? So let's vote on this one. How many say it's Russia? How many say Eritrea? How many would say Saudi Arabia? How many for North Korea? Okay, we'll get back to that one in a moment. So we talked about vulnerabilities in America, right? The foster care system. We talked about drug abuse. We talked about Romeo pimps, sextortion. We talked about social media, all these different kinds of things, right? What makes someone vulnerable, that 98%, or in particular if we look at developing countries, what makes someone vulnerable to being trafficked? Okay. I heard low education. If I were to choose one word, what word should I choose? That's it, poverty. Now imagine how sad that scenario is. Somebody is trafficked simply because they're poor. So I want to share with you just a couple more statistics here, and that is less than 0.5% of human trafficking victims are identified. So I have a chain on the table out in the foyer. That chain has one link on it out of 100 that's different from the rest. And so really, to free a trafficking victim is extremely challenging once they've already been trafficked. But here's some of the stories that we hear with our projects, and I have seen some of these circumstances firsthand with my own eyes. I've met the trafficking victims. I've heard them share their experiences. First one here is becoming a sacrifice so that younger siblings or family can survive. So what we see happening, and it was interesting as our team was filming and doing a reenactment of a scenario where girls go out to the roadside in Zambia. They're in Chirindu, right on the border with Zimbabwe. You know the area. There's multiple truck stops, right? So these girls go out with a basket of vegetables, carrying the basket of vegetables to sell to the truck drivers. But instead, the truck driver comes and makes them a different proposition that will earn them $3 to $5. And the girl's thinking about family at home that don't have enough to eat. And she asks herself the question, can I be a sacrifice? And the sad thing is, most of the time, she answers that question yes, because she wants the family to survive. That can be precipitated by the loss of the main wage earner for the family. Sarah, beautiful young girl, met her and her family. Her brother is quite a bit older than her. She is a teenager, mid-teens, and her brother was the main wage earner as a truck driver in his 40s and had a stroke. That stroke incapacitated him. He just lays on a bed all day long. And now his wife has to take care of him, and that whole family now is in a desperate situation. They literally raise and sell pigeons to try to live on the money they can make by selling pigeons. The irony of selling pigeons is if they sell that pigeon to a home where there's chaos and fighting and people are angry with each other, the pigeon will escape and fly back to them so they can resell some of these pigeons. But in any case, it's quite a job, isn't it? But it's not enough to survive on. So here's Sarah out there trying to sell vegetables, and she's approached by a truck driver and makes the decision to get trafficked. And so I met another gentleman with his daughter had been trafficked. He's a fisherman walking 2 hours to catch fish, and one day got attacked by a crocodile, and he pulled down his pants and showed me the scars on his leg. He can no longer walk those 2 hours. And you're from Zambia, you know these stories where people are walking 2 hours sometimes trying to survive. And so no longer can he do fishing to support his family, so his daughter gets trafficked. One of the most tragic stories we heard was an inability to pay debt. This particular man with his family, I'm guessing it's likely for alcohol, but he ran up a debt. The creditors saw that he had a beautiful teenage daughter and said, "We will take your daughter in exchange for the debt." The father, jerk, creep, said, "I'll take the deal." The mom says, "Not over my dead body. You are not selling our daughter." So what does the dad do? He takes off, runs away. Now the creditors have no idea where he's at. Are they done going after their debt? They go to the mom and they say, "Okay, now we want both of your daughters." In the meantime, we were able to rescue Sharon and get her to our school there that we support. We actually have a safe house. We initially rented. She was part of the first 36 girls that were rescued to a rented dormitory, able to go to a high level of education. Very smart girl. We did not know that she had already been trafficked. It was a relative that was trafficking her out by the roadside. I don't think her mom knew that she had already been trafficked. But she's here in this safe place now. And when I met her, she was distraught. She looked troubled. And she shared with our partner there that her mother was about to go to jail because she wouldn't give up the girls for the debt. So we went out to visit the mother in the little village where she lived and discovered that she also was walking 2 hours to braid hair. That's how she supported her family. So we purchased her a bicycle so she could get to work more quickly. And then we asked her, how much is this debt? It's destroying their lives. How much is this debt? $411. So she received the money from Child Impact to pay off the debt. And this last year, I was able to visit Sharon on the campus of Riverside Farm. And I walked by this girl, and I recognized her from my previous visit. And I said, I recognize you. And she looked at me, she said, I'm Sharon. I said, Sharon? What's happened? She literally glowed. She was literally glowing. And she said, yes, my sister's here now too. She is also studying here. So she went and got her sister. I was able to meet her sister. I went out to the vehicle and I just cried. I couldn't believe how much this girl had changed in 1 year, from desperation to being just literally glowing, an absolutely beautiful girl. And her life completely turned around. She wants to be an engineer. She has big dreams for her future. And I just realized that what a big change can happen by stepping in and intervening in these circumstances. At $411 just about destroyed her life. And she is on medication. About 30 to 40% of the girls that we rescue in Zambia have HIV. But with medication, some of them are open that they're taking it. Other ones kind of hide that they're taking it. But it gives them a very normal life. And I was really surprised because we're, wanting to bring, occasional, like the top student of the year. We want to bring them over to the U.S. And I was doing the studies. Could somehow somebody accidentally get HIV if we have them in our home and all this kind of thing. And actually, all the studies show that with this medication, as long as they've been on it for 6 months, it isn't even passed on. So it's pretty amazing, the advances in medication for this issue. But this is super challenging, what these girls are facing at such young ages. And I remember when we first met her, she was like, who would ever love me with what I've been through and what I've gone through? And yet now she's in a place where anybody would love this girl. She's so amazing. It's incredible, and love her for the right reasons. In some places, there's intentional disabling of children for begging rings. This is probably the major strategy that's used by traffickers, and that's to offer a fake job. Of course, they don't say fake jobs and make a list of jobs. They make them look like real jobs. Wow, you're going to be able to go be a domestic worker in Europe or the Middle East or in Lusaka or wherever it is. And so we've learned a lot about this in terms of the fake job offers. Basically, they get these girls in a situation where they're responding, they have a desperate need, and then they end up trafficking them. One of the main trafficking ports in Africa is Zanzibar. And those of you African here, you know about this. Girls from Ethiopia are very attractive for trafficking. It's a very vulnerable place where girls come from. We have children from Ethiopia that we have in our sponsorship program. They're known to be very beautiful in Africa. And so you have trafficking caravan lanes that go down from Ethiopia they route through Zambia down into South Africa. But also from Zanzibar, they send them to the Middle East and to Europe. And so we've actually rescued some girls. I'm going to share a little video about them that come from a Muslim background. And we moved them onto one of our campuses in Tanzania. So I'll share a little bit about that in a moment. All right, so the most trafficking victims for a country? India. Two out of every 5 trafficking victims globally. And what country has the highest percentage of human trafficking compared to the population? The correct answer on that one is North Korea. So according to this study, so you're looking at over 100 out of 1,000. So that's 1 in every 10 residents in North Korea is considered to be in modern-day slavery. Unfortunately, we are not working in North Korea, but we do have a couple of other countries that one of which is ranked even more dangerous than North Korea that we're working in. So we'll shut the video part off in a little while when I bring that to you. But I want to move now to Tanzania and share the stories of these girls. It's a 5-minute video. I think you'll really enjoy this one.
Education is very important in all of Africa. For men, in one way or another, somehow they are educated compared to women. Most of women, they don't get opportunity of studying.
Recently, Child Impact heard about a challenge in some of the border cities of Tanzania and other countries. The reason the issue is so significant in these cities is that traffickers cross the border and they offer girls, young girls, jobs as domestic workers. That's really a front for trafficking and sex trafficking.
It's good that we find a way of assisting them to get education. Otherwise, they will suffer a lot. They will suffer a lot. And if you go there, you can even cry the way they are suffering.
So when an opportunity came for girls to be able to attend the Twing Secondary School, they immediately responded and said, yes, we want to be a part of this. They partnered together with government officials, they met with families and identified girls who were the most vulnerable. These girls became part of the first 33 girls to be rescued who are now attending Twing Secondary School. Almost all of these girls come from a Muslim background. They wear the hijab and they come from a different experience culturally and in terms of their religion. In my past ministry experience, I've been a church planter, evangelism director, conference president, and I'm keenly aware how challenging work among Muslims can be. There is such prejudice towards Christianity normally. Yet here in this context, the parents are welcoming this opportunity for their girls to receive an Adventist Christian education.
We had a testimony from parents calling and saying, if they become Adventist, we will be happy. We have given them to you. So it is a good news because you can't baptize someone, especially a Muslim, without the voice from the family. Otherwise, you will bring really big problem to the school. We have stories where schools have been banned, people being killed. So to us, we see that it is a providence of God for these girls to be in our hands and the parents to accept happily that we teach them about Jesus.
I'm excited that these girls will get to hear about Jesus. They can come to know Him as their personal friend. Already they're opening their Bibles and you can see how intently they're reading the verses. This is all new to them. We are excited that they have an opportunity not only to have a safe place and be protected from their vulnerabilities that they face, but also they have this opportunity to come to know Jesus and have hope for future with Him.
This is a very exciting project for me, the Twing School in Tanzania, because as I was a young child, the missionary from this location, Harry Hospital, Twing Schools, Ethel Twing, would come to our home, and she would fundraise for her mission in Tanzania. So for me, Tanzania was Africa, and it's the place I wanted to go. And so when I became the leader at Child Impact, one of the first questions I had is, what's happened to those schools? Is there a way we can be involved and support them? We discovered the schools were about to close down because the missionary had passed away, the funding was not available, and so we immediately put them on our sponsorship program and begin to help build those schools up, to give them operating funds through sponsorship, to be able to educate the kids that they were looking after. And then we began the process of helping them upgrade and improve their campus. And so from the time Child Impact has gotten involved, We've had a total makeover of the school, total upgrade, commercial kitchens on both campuses, the primary school, the secondary school. A new girls' dormitory and a new boys' dormitory are currently being built. We've done landscaping, gardening project. Anyway, there's just all sorts of livestock project that we're going to be doing as well. So there's just been an amazing response from our donors to really build these schools up. And what I love about that is we can continue ministering to these Muslim girls. And some of them have already been baptized. So that's just super exciting to see how God is blessing with that. Okay, let's move to the next slide here. So I just want you to take Jameer's case as an example right here. I was there when a group of the girls arrived by bus in the middle of the night, and we were able to get them breakfast that morning and then take them out to the school. But you think about Jameer's options. She can be a child bride, can take a job across the border as a domestic worker, which likely would end up in her being trafficked, or she can be an orthopedic surgeon. Which would you choose for her? It's pretty obvious, isn't it? How does she become that orthopedic surgeon? By being able to go to the tween school because somebody's sponsoring her to go to school and to pursue that educational opportunity. So that is how big the life-changing opportunity can be for some of these kids and where they end up. In Bangladesh, the director for our program for the whole country of Bangladesh, we have about 1,200 students that we sponsor there, was himself a sponsored orphan child through Child Impact. At the time, we were called Asian Aid. But he was sponsored by us as a child, as an orphan. Now he runs the program for 1,200 kids. The principal of the school was sponsored to go to the school where he's now principal. I met a teacher at the school who was sponsored to go to the school where he's now teaching. These kids want to give back after they've been given, an opportunity and been given a different path in their life, and it's pretty powerful to see that happening. Okay, we have these cards. Did everybody get a card? I tried to catch everybody during the video there. Okay, great. I'm not going to collect them just yet, but when you start filling them out, and one of the boxes here is if you have an interest in Child Impact sermon and afternoon program at your church. Obviously, we've already been here. We travel at our own expense. We want to get the word out. And we believe God's people will respond when we come. Obviously, there's a cost involved, but we want to really get the word out. And our approach has been to go to local churches to do that. So we've had close to, over 50 speaking appointments this year. And so that's kept me in particular pretty busy. But next year, we're going to have close to 100 speaking appointments around the United States to share the work that we're doing. So if you're connected with a local church somewhere where you say, look, we'd love to have Child Impact come and share, please fill that out. We have, I think, about 7 or 8 speakers now that go out and share in local churches. So some are lay people and doing it at their own cost even to go and share on our behalf. So what a blessing that is. All right, I want to finish in a way with this segment, and then we're going to do the drawing. We're going to do a little segment here on the Philippines. Then we'll do the drawing, and then we're going to shut the video off and go to talking about our secret projects to close out. And we'll have time for Q&A as well, okay? But I want to get into our major project. We made a decision to go with this major project for a dinner that we have planned next weekend in Collegedale, Tennessee. We have a dinner. You're having a big event here November 17. We're having a big event. We have been in the Collegedale Community Church in their fellowship hall for the last 2 years. But this year we decided to rent the Founders Hall, which is right there by the City Hall and where It Is Written is at, and all those. It's a massive hall there that is, many people have weddings, different events there. And so we opened this up for a dinner, and we've had over 400 people register to attend that dinner. So that's next weekend. So please keep that in prayer. But we're really having a big launch of building out a rescue campus in the Philippines. So I want to just give you a little background with that. You're the first group to see this video, okay? It's a video we're going to be showing next weekend. So you're getting the preview of it. So if you have any edits on the video, please let me know. But we'll be sharing a little bit about that. And of course, the challenge there is with child brides. This is baby James. His mother passed away during childbirth. When you think about being a child bride, it's not only a violation of the young girl who may want to pursue her education, who's not ready to get married yet, whose body is not mature enough to have children, but when she gives birth, The life of the child and the life of the mom both are at risk. And in this case, the mother lost her life during childbirth. The father, the villagers, being superstitious, felt that the child represented bad luck, and they placed his body by the corpse of his mom for him to eventually die. One of the teachers found out about this. She was normally a several-hour walk away. She basically ran the whole way to come and get this baby. She was herself an orphan who was adopted by missionaries. And she said, "That boy's mine. I'm going to go get that boy." And she's been raising, that's her, Teacher Marlin, and she's been raising this beautiful young man. And you just look at him and say, wow, how can somebody just leave a baby like this to die? So Child Impact recognized that Teacher Marlin did not have the ability. She was not planning to adopt this baby. She felt compelled to, and so we helped her get him the food he needed, nutrition he needed, medical needs that he had, and we also helped her with the adoption process for baby James. But this is where we're doing this very special project. Hey, this is baby James. This is meeting baby James up on the top. He's a toddler now, and I want to say thank you to everyone who helped support his journey. He was abandoned as a baby, and he's now been adopted by Merlin, and it's just flourishing. It's so great to finally meet him. All right. So here's the video.
When I was growing up as a kid, summer was my favorite time of the year. The days are longer, it's hot, and we spent a lot of time at the lake, at the beach, at the pool. My family would take vacations then, and it was a great time to spend with friends. And as we've been going around and touring these mountain schools, the kids here just don't have the same experience in their summers and their school breaks. When a child here goes on school break, they're stuck at home in their small village all day long. They live in small bamboo huts. They're open on 3 sides. There's no kitchen, there's no stove, there's no refrigerator. They hardly have power at all. If they have any water, they're drawing it from a nearby river, and they're just surviving there. And there's nothing to do for them. And so for many of them, this is a time where their parents decide it'd be good for you to go ahead and get married. And they're really just kids themselves. They're not at an age where they can get married. And so for many of these kids, when they go home for summer break, many of them don't come back to school. So just recently, all the kids here went on break, and 9 of the students didn't come back for classes. And the teachers went out trying to find each of these 9 kids and find out what happened to them. Why didn't they come back to my class? And all 9 of them were married off as children. And they were only able to recover one of those children, Rylan, because she stood up for herself. And she said, I want to go back to school and I want to get an education and study.
When I was still in the mountains, they forced me to marry, even though I didn't want to. Sometimes they even scared me. If I didn't want to marry, they would do something bad to me.
The culture here is that once a man gives you money and you agree to it and accept it, it means you are willing to marry him. But if you don't like the man, you double that amount. If it's 100, you double it and give him back 200. Sometimes if the woman does not want the man, what the man does is give the money directly to the mother. If the parents have accepted the money, their child can no longer refuse.
I felt that I wasn't important to my parents because if I were important to them, they would respect my decision to continue my studies. It's just sad because for just 200, they will force me to marry a man I don't even like.
My mother got married at 10 years old and gave birth to me when she was 12 years old.
This is what happens in the mountains. Sometimes they force their children to marry because of money. That's why I asked my teacher for help.
We decided to really go up there to rescue that child, and we really saw the situation. When we went to the house, I really saw how her parents and relatives rejected her, how they threw away her clothes.
The family was so angry. They said, if you want her to go back to school and study, then she's yours. You have to take care of her from now on. And one of the teachers, Michelle, told me, I instantly offered to adopt her as my own daughter. And not just in a way that she could stay at my house, that I would prepare food for her and look after her, but she's actually going through the legal system to adopt her as her own child forever.
I told her, don't worry. If you have no parents to support you, I will be your parent here.
What Michelle told us is that she's not only now trying to adopt Rylan, but she's trying to adopt Rylan's siblings to protect them as well from being married off as children.
I want to indeed cut off our traditions in the mountains where women marry early. So now I am happy because Child Impact has a program for women like me.
While Rylan's story is very encouraging and super exciting to be a part of, there were 8 other children who didn't stand up for themselves and say, I want to continue my studies, I don't want to be married. And so there are many other children here who are in need of a safe place. And so I'm excited about the opportunity that we have before us of building a girls' dorm and safe house where these kids can continue their education and we can rescue more and more girls from the highlands here in the Philippines.
When I think about the dream that we have for these precious people that we're working at, actually I think of you and me right now. You and I are sitting here right now totally free. I have nobody forcing me to do this, forcing me to do that. I have freedom. And the people that we're working with, a lot of them have no freedom. I dream of these children having freedom. These students are learning about choices. They're learning about what it means to be able to exercise those choices. A lot of the students say, I didn't realize I had a choice. And a lot of times they haven't in the past, but there's been growth, there has been change. And we want to see these young people have the same freedom that you and I have.
The sad reality of the situation here is that every time these kids go on break from school, more and more of them are getting married off. And so we've got to get this safe house built as fast as possible to prevent more of them from going into this life, this cycle of exploitation and abuse. So we visited the land, and as soon as I got there, I could tell the Lord placed this property in our hands for a beautiful work. It's an incredible piece of property. And just walking the land with Sean, the director of Palmas, and the girls from the high school who will be benefited by it, I was just amazed at what God was doing here.
You're the first group to see the video. Wow, that one teared me up to see this teacher step forward and say, look, I will adopt you and I'll do it legally and I'll adopt your siblings as well. That's absolutely amazing, absolutely amazing. So this is the young girl that, her mother married at 10 years old, first baby at 12 years old, and here she is now able to have an opportunity. So the land that we have, about half of it's 13 acres, about half of it is high enough to build on. And then we have rice paddies, so we're going to be able to grow rice there. And there's many mango trees on the campus as well, so we're going to be planting different kinds of fruits as well, and gardens there, and so we're super excited about it. We have a goal for a whole campus, a full-featured campus that will have, a boys' dorm as well, in addition to the girls' dorm. We're going to start with the girls' safe house, our girls' dorm for 48 girls. That will include housing for the dean of girls, as well as restroom facilities and a place to cook. And then we'll do the same thing with the boys there. And then we're going to add classrooms, because in the Highlands we're supporting 11 schools. But once the education ends there at grade 10, they don't have a place to go through for 11 and 12, for grades 11 and 12. So this will get them all the way through high school. So we're going to build a campus there with grades 11 and 12. We probably will do a full high school there, is my guess, and go 9 to 12. But in any case, right now, they're going to have a safe place as soon as this is built, but they'll still be going to public school. So we're doing this in phases because we want them to have an Adventist education all the way through. So I share that because I never know who's sitting in an audience that has resources that you've been blessed with, and I just want to share there's a bigger vision beyond this initial safe house that we're building. And so this is phase 1, which is the purchase of the land, the safe house, and that's our goal right now that we're looking to raise for phase 1. So if you'd like to participate in that, I know one of you already has done that, which is wonderful. This is on the envelopes that I handed to you, and it's the second line there, which says, I would like to contribute to the World Day Against Human Trafficking Special Project, which is a safe house for girls who are at risk for child marriage in Palawan, Philippines. So that is where you can give a donation to that particular project. Some of you may say, I'd like to monthly support your rescue project. So that's what that first, so that's the line there for the rescue home, or the safe house. And then this is to give a monthly pledge to all of our rescue projects. So, and if you're sponsoring, you're already supporting the Operation Child Rescue as part of that sponsorship. So anyway, let's get ready for the drawing. And while we're doing that, just a reminder that we have profiles of children on the table out in the foyer. And now we're going to move to a no recording please moment. And I do want to give you time for Q&A while we're collecting. So maybe, Pastor, would you mind helping me collect the cards here? And we do have someone in our office that can work with you on estate planning, if that's something that you're interested in. If you're not prepared to make a major donation, or you want to make a major donation, but you're not prepared today to help with this special project, you can check that box, and Chris from our team will get in touch with you. Sometimes we have people that have certain funds that they want to figure out how to transfer across to Child Impact, and we can help with that process. So, all right, let's open up for any questions that you might have. Questions or comments? Yes. Opportunity to go on trips. Yeah, that is a great question. The type of trips that we're doing at this moment is taking individuals to experience our projects while we film. So I travel for the purpose of recording videos. We're on 3ABN every Friday evening twice. So if you watch 3ABN, you can see us online there, but our videos come out on 3ABN. And so I invite people sometimes to go with me for those trips. We have 11 of us total, going to Tanzania at the beginning of February. So that trip is filled, but I usually will take 8 to 10 people when I go. And basically, your job is to enjoy being with the kids. That's it. So we don't have... you can shoot me an email, and then I can be in touch with you about that. So you can get my email afterwards. But
you showed a number of 275.
Yeah.
What have you raised so far?
We have raised so far. Let me. I'll give you the exact number here. Let's see here. So we do a speaker update. So we've raised $131,000 so far.
And on the construction phrase, are you using Maranatha, or are you just still build?
We use local. Everywhere we go, we use local workers. So yeah, the oversight is by people that we trust, but they'll hire people locally to come in and do that. Now, if somebody wants to go and volunteer to do that, we can certainly set that up. Sean, that you saw in the video there, this is going to be an ongoing project probably for a couple of years to get this campus fully built out. But Sean, we're partnering with PAMAS, which is the Philippine Adventist Aviation Ministry. They do helicopter and airplane evacuations for medical reasons. So we will work with them in this project. So yeah, we're actually putting in a road right now between their headquarters and the land, so that we purchase the access. Yeah, we're doing. Sean, we ended up we're going to be doing so much of it, we ended up purchasing the equipment we needed. So that's part of that whole infrastructure initial. It takes a while to get the foundation in place, then everything else can go at a lesser amount. But anyway, yeah, it's very exciting. So 131,000, about. There we go. Hey, I didn't even think about that. About half of that was from one major donor that gave about half of that 131. So we praise God for that. But the dollars add up. With many people, things can happen. Any other questions? Yes.
The child that we sponsor, can we communicate with the child?
Yes. So when you sponsor a child, we will send you a packet that will show you how you can sign up to an online portal. We do have we can do hard copies with mailing stuff back and forth too, if that's the way that some people do that. But it's easiest if you have an account set up on our website. Then when we have an update, like we receive an updated photo or we receive grades or your child sends a letter to you, you will get an email from us. So the boy that we sponsor in Bangladesh, there's been a couple of messages that have come back to me now of, there's new something new in your portal there. So yeah, you can communicate with them. We do scan and look at every communication that comes through because we're in child protection. We actually had something that slipped through, not in a bad way, but we had a sponsor whose child told them that they wanted a bicycle. We're not in the bicycle business as Child Impact. If we're busy getting kids bicycles, we're going to be using all our time getting kids bikes. But this donor said, Tom, I know you're going to be in Zambia. Can you get a bicycle for my sponsored girl? I said, okay, we'll get her a bicycle. So she funded that bicycle. But we normally are careful that the kids are not asking you for things because it gets very complicated. And so we actually don't mail things in the past. That used to happen. We actually only do graduation gifts for the kids because what happened is that some kids would get gifts and others would not. And so in these schools, there's kids that are sponsored and those that are not. And so we didn't want to set up a situation where other kids are disappointed. So we do get all the kids graduation gifts when they graduate. So that's how our gift fund works. But these are difficult things to sort through and sort out. But yeah, you can communicate. And you can visit, in most of the countries we work, you can visit your child as well. We just require a background check. Yeah. Not normally. Not normally. Not normally. What we're doing right now is something a little unusual. For Zambia, we want to pilot a project where we'll have the top student every year come and spend the summer with Child Impact and travel to churches with us. So that's the goal for this next summer. So Mary that you saw in the video, I'm going to pilot with the child that I'm sponsoring. So this is that our family sponsors. So we're hoping if we can get the visa to work, they have good relationships there, and that if you have connections in Zambia with government officials that can help us get those visas, that'll be helpful. But the school there is at a very high academic level. So these kids actually have to pass special government exams to get in, but we have a plan for those that can't pass, where they end up learning tailoring and they get tutoring, so hopefully they can pass the test later and get in school. But our actual cost for one of these rescue girls in Zambia to go to school is closer to $135 a month. But we haven't changed our sponsorship. We've left it at the $50 a month. And so it's a bit of a challenge. We make up that shortfall through Operation Child Rescue. So anyway, they're just getting a very high level fine arts and everything there. It's phenomenal. The educated government officials. I was filming there, and they were interviewing a government official, and he said, in fact, next year I plan to send my son to this school. This is a high level government official. And he was interviewing him and said, what? Like right in the middle of the interview, I just like, what? He said, yes, I'm planning to send my son here to this school. And so they've developed such a reputation that when we built the rescue home there for 100 girls, initially, as I mentioned, we had 36 that we rescued there in Zambia through a rented. But we had a donor that fully funded a dormitory. So that dormitory is a little over $200,000 to build for 100 girls. They added a triple bunk beds on the top without telling us, because they had so many paying students that wanted to go there. They said, how can you reserve this whole dorm for rescue girls? We want to pay to be there. So they added enough so that they can have paying students. But I took one of our board members to visit, and they were so touched by what they saw. They said, I will raise funds for a second dormitory for 100 more girls. So that will be our biggest rescue project with 200 girls in Zambia. But if you start to add up the numbers, the cost being $135 a month, our shortfall, because $45 is the boarding sponsorship and then we had $5 for OCR, our shortfall is $90 a girl. So you're talking about $90,000 a year for each dorm that we have to raise through Operation Child Rescue. So having monthly donors gives us that stability, and that's why we put on that envelope this idea of giving monthly to help with our rescue projects, because as those grow, we want to make sure we can take care of these kids. Any other questions? I'll take one more and then we'll do the drawing. Okay. Good to go. So we'll go with, let's go with the bar of soap first, all right? So this is from, the bag and the bar of soap are both from the Freedom Project India in Bangalore, and the winner